whose poop did Cassie poop?
9/11?
Whose poop did Cassie poop? The horse's poop.
The horse's poop.
The horse?
Oh my god! Oh my god! Because the piss goes with.
It's true. In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Catherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Animorphs. These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Did she poop her poop?
Dude.
Or was there poop in the morph?
The poop?
Because the stuff that humans eat isn't what horse stomachs are made to digest. So, would that poop come out normal?
Well, so the horse digestive tracts, from what I understand, it's just a lot of large intestine. It's a lot of colon, just a lot of colon, so that they can get some nutrients out of the hay.
Yeah.
They poop a lot. That was actually
At what point did you absorb that information?
A useless fact. So we have a veterinary cousin, and he went out and got a drink with me at Fume and told me about horse intestines and about how he had seen a horse flipped over to do horse surgery, and the horse surgeons were just pulling out horse intestines.
Well, because carnivores are like the opposite, where to avoid getting parasites from eating raw meat, their colons are like extremely short, so that it doesn't stay in their bodies long. But it's also easier to get nutrients out of meat than it is out of hay.
Happy Pride, everybody.
Happy Pride.
It's always Pride here at Anadorks. The point is, that's a really good question, and I really don't want us to have to make a merchandise glass that says the poop stays put. The piss, something about the piss goes with is very fun to me, and I would drink a beer out of that. The poop stays put is too far.
So wait, when are we leading towards? Is it Cassie's poop, or is it poop that is always there? Is it possible there's always poop ready to be? No, it would introduce.
Do you morph into the animal with as much poop in their colon as was in it when you absorbed their DNA?
Well, as we all know, poop is determined by DNA.
Listen, we are way past that. We should be morphing babies, and we know it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that always be introducing new matter? If that was the case?
That would be creating new matter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean we have a huge. Which
is not the first time we've run into that problem, honestly.
No,
call it matter, call it stuff, call it Dookie, conservation of Dookie issue here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Should we ask our Animorphs about this?
Yes.
Should we ever ask our Animorphs?
We should ask them about pooping schedules as they pertain to astrology.
I think Cassie was able to poop here. Because she's a Gemini.
Oh, okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cassie was being such an Aries in this moment. Was anyone else getting that from this moment?
Is anybody getting Aries coded? Arieses are always taking shits at juicy moments.
Chapter 22.
22. All right, here we go. Take it away, Ed.
Okay, the gang arrives at the gardens the next day in Owlmorphs. We learned that Zone 91 has rented out the entire park under the name Gondor Industries, so only Zone 91 employees will be present at the park this evening. The Animorphs have intended to arrive an hour early to concoct the plan, but because Cassie miscalculated military time, the private event is already underway when they arrive. They need to act fast. They figure out that there are probably 2 places the Yeerks could quietly infest Zone 91, enlistees, as Chris corrected. The haunted house and the log flume ride. It is nuts that they narrow it down to these 2 places. Tobias, Rachel, and Axe will investigate the haunted house, while Cassie, Jake, and Marco go to the log flume. Everything goes Looney Tunes at the log flume ride. Cassie, Marco, and Jake run into Captain Torrelli from Zone 91 mid-ride. He recognizes Cassie and Marco and calls for their arrest. They decide to ditch the ride inside the Tunnel of Love in order to escape Captain Torrelli, though they also suspect that the tunnel is where the Yeerks would strike if they're in this section of the park. Cassie, Marco, and Jake are plunged into complete darkness upon entering the Tunnel of Love. The chapter ends with Cassie beginning to step off the boat, blindly.
That's true. She says she'll just leave it up to luck, or fate, or something.
Luck, I think.
Gondor Industries. This is the fucking last, last vestiges of the kingdom of men right here. Like,
I don't even know what Gondor is. Is
Gondor?
It pictures? Oh,
Lord
it's
of the Rings.
Tolkien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man,
what I was saying.
didn't know that.
It's the kingdom of men.
I'm kind of proud. I'm kind of proud of how little I know about Lord of the Rings.
You shouldn't
I
be
know
proud
way
of that.
more. No, I am, because I was raised by a bunch of fucking Lord of the Rings nerds, and like I'm proud that I am the Charlie XCX keeper.
I don't realistically know that much about Lord of the Rings, but like,
But I just have. We don't need to get into it. I don't mean our literal family even so much. I mean like literally my entire life. People have been like, "These are the best books you ever need to read," and I'm going to read them, but I'm not going to tell Bennett or Lucas or anybody.
But Chris, you make up for it in that you
I
already
may have already read them.
You already knew about the Mind Flayer Githyanki conflict before play. You've never played Baldur's Gate 3, and I only learned
I still haven't played it.
And you knew all about it and could speak about it in detail. So I think that's actually
okay,
way
I'll
nerdier
take that.
than...
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
So I'm allowed to have this one gap, and I may not even have it. The point is, everybody, welcome to my gap. All right, back to the chapter at hand.
yeah, this is it's just goofy. It's just a goofy chapter. Marco is like, by the way, you just subtract 12 to calculate military time.
And then after he says it so earnestly, because there's this plot of him being bad at math, and then we're doing it again where he's suddenly good at like simple, like, but important math, like life math. And then he says it, pauses for a second, was like, that was weirdly helpful, and I wasn't mean to my friend. So I threw it. So he then threw in a duh to make it less awkward.
It has to
really
be
like that.
It has to be the perspective of the books that changes these characterizations, right? They must be keeping that in mind.
I agree. I really think so.
Or we
I
actually
really
have a
think
case
so.
where Michael Grant and Kay Applegate are writing books separately, and they have different feelings about the characters. Like, I don't actually...
But wouldn't that result in the same thing if they're divvying up on a per character basis?
No,
like if it's
point.
like Grant, so like Grant takes the Marco and Jake, and then we get a Rachel and Cassie from KA, and it's like, well, suddenly I don't know, but like Cassie is so forgiving to Marco.
It's true
in a remarkable way.
I will say,
a remarkable way.
Them getting spotted because Marco can't shut up. Captain Torrelli going, I know that voice.
But there's a love of Marco that is in this book that was not as present in the last book.
Yeah, but goes back to Marco. Was it Marco or Cassie when they had that? Oh, it was Cassie when they go to Marco's apartment building back in book 4.
Yeah.
But Marco is still a definite scamp because he turns around in their boat and says to Captain Torrelli, I don't think you really can arrest us. I mean, you're military police, right? And this is not a military base. And then he whips out a cell phone in the 90s and starts calling Garden's security and giving his freaking, like, clearance number or whatever.
That one cell phone call downed 5 civilian planes nearby.
That's so funny.
It's just such a silly thing. There's also a really cute moment on the log flume because, like, okay, in my head, they're all on the log flume and Torrelli or Tortellini. What is it? It's Tortellini. Tortelloni. Is it spinach or cheese
Torrelli
on the inside of these noodles? Okay, so but Tortelloni is in the same car as them, right? But there's a divider.
No, he's in the boat behind them, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. But when they go into the Tunnel of Love, this detail I thought was fucking next level. Next level's an exaggeration, but I love that Cassie bothered to be the slightest bit jealous that Jake knew about the Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, she's like, why does he know about the Tunnel of Love?
Why does Jake know about the Tunnel of Love, though? Like, why would my guy know about the Tunnel of Love if he hadn't taken me to it? That's just weird.
Just,
I would know about the Tunnel of Love.
Yeah, it's just like weird vibes.
Weird vibes.
Don't love that.
Like, yeah, what were you? Why were you on the Tunnel of Love?
Was that more of a thing in decades prior? Because I don't feel like we have.
Of course.
I've never been through a tunnel of love that I'm aware of.
No, neither have I. And in fact, I only know it from cartoons. But what I'm saying is like from teen dramas and cartoons.
Yes.
I'm just saying the way that you would read about it. It's like the John Mulaney joke about quicksand or whatever. It's like, I would have thought the Tunnel of Love would have been way more, like I would have been, you know, like they would have called Tinder Tunnel of Love or something. Or it's like, hey, do you want to go down to the...
Like, I've been on a lot of enclosed water rides, but like, It's a Small World is an enclosed water ride, and I wouldn't call that a tunnel of love. You can make out on
It's a Small World. It's an odd choice. It's an odd choice.
If the puppets do it for you, that's not for me to say anything about.
Okay,
but there might be children present.
You definitely shouldn't. You should not.
We
you
can't
should
tell
make
you
out
where...
on Epcot Test Drive. That's when you
Test
should
Drive.
make out.
They're redoing it. It's going to be so cool.
We can't tell you where we live, but I will say I feel like the Chocolate World tour also.
You're talking about the singing cows. That's what does it for you, right?
I hate the singing cows. They added the singing cows in the last like 15 years, and they're the bane of my existence.
It used to be one cow that just went moo in a really
it was like a little
scary
diorama.
time.
Okay, but if I was going to say, if there was a place to kiss in Chocolate World, it would be the oven. When they roll you through the oven.
The same thing.
I think that's
and
true.
Is that the Tunnel of Love?
It's got that tension. That's the Tunnel of Love.
Also, when you see that rake thing moving the chocolate sauce around.
Oh my God. That is fetish content.
Yes.
That is 100% fetish content. Like, I literally think about that stupid reciprocal machine.
And are you the rake or are you the chocolate, Chris?
I don't know, man.
Why is this not on YouTube? I can never find this on YouTube.
10 hours of chocolate being
the
churned.
chocolate,
yeah,
like ASMR or the kiss machine. Like,
Yep.
Okay. Jesus,
Sorry.
I need to sit down.
I love that you were like, we can't tell you where we live, and then Chris in the notes is like, I'm imagining the coal cracker.
Yeah, speaking of Hershey Park.
Should we go to chapter 23?
Let's do it.
I think we should. Let's do it. She jumps out of the boat, right? That's where we're starting.
Step off the boat.
They need to get out of this ride because Tortelloni is...
Cassie attempts to exit the log flume ride inside the Tunnel of Love, only she ends up falling into the water instead. The current sweeps her along, floating down the log flume ride outside of her log boat. She notices that Marco Log, Jake Log, and Torrelli Log have all fallen into the water as well. I don't know, I just felt like I was saying log a lot.
That's great. Keep logging. No, this is great content.
Are you logging right now?
Are you logged?
Can we get a log in the chat?
Can you Captain Jack that log?
They all go over the big slide into the ride's final lagoon and just barely dodge one of the log boats coming down the slide behind them. Torrelli tries to snatch Cassie as she climbs out of the water, but he slips and falls back into the water, drowning. No. Cassie, Marco, and Jake escape, heading towards the haunted house. That must be where the Yeerks are planning to attack. One additional complication presents itself. They're now being pursued by security.
Real quick. I meant to say Captain Morgan.
What are you talking about?
Miranda knows, and Richard, who is listening.
Captain
congratulations,
Jack
Richard.
Yes, congratulations.
Richard definitely caught it. My mistake. I'm sure of it.
They are maybe in more danger at this moment coming down the slide than they were.
They all have concussions.
Yes, and salmonella.
Yep.
But also, this is the first time I'm going to ask this. How did nobody stop the ride when they saw loose children?
Actually, what you can stop is the conveyor belts on the coal cracker, right? But even on a roller coaster, that's all kinetic energy. So there's no motor.
Once they get to the slide, but like they could turn off the boats in the back so that more boats aren't coming.
This is true. But once a boat has been loosed, boat's gonna boat. Boats to boat. Sucks to suck, boats to boat.
I would think there would have to be some sort of emergency stop at the top of the slide, like they could put up a wall.
Do you remember in the Cold Cracker, there was a guy who'd be like, "You're okay, right?"
Yeah!
No.
See, he could have stopped it. There was always a guy sitting at the top of the fall, like, and he was just like, hang on. Like,
yeah.
Okay,
And
right.
he would just be looking at you in case you were like complete dipshits. And like that was, I think, the
Like
whole
standing
thing
up
was
or
just,
something?
Like he wanted to make sure you weren't dead at the top of the hill.
it's only like a 45-foot drop, too. That, though, because I was picturing the Cold Cracker, and, like, listeners will probably mostly not know this, but this ride, like, there was no excess space in this particular log flume ride. Like, the tube was the size of the log. So, like, when she was like, I stepped off and fell in the water, to me, I'm like, she stepped off and fell to the ground.
It's horrifying. Me imagining what harm could have come upon these children if they went down the slide not in a boat, and then the boat is chasing them down. Like, I don't care if it's just oh my God, it's so dangerous. There were like metal railings to grab the boat at the bottom. I'm just imagining the most horrible Final Destination. It's even better than Final Destination, because Final Destination, they kill you with mundane objects. This is made to kill you. Like, this is so bad.
Can you imagine, though, like, if, you know how the scripture always get with Hork-Bajir when they get hit? It's like Captain Torrelli was hit by the log boat. He got knocked down in the water and didn't get up again. Like, that's what they would say.
Yeah, because that's what she said. She's like, he falls back and his head goes under. And I'm like, he's gonna die.
He was down and he stayed down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
No, this whole, and now they're running to the other option, right? But
they're wet.
They're wet.
And barefoot.
They're in their morphing outfits, which we've been told is okay because it's a theme park, so people wear weird shit.
Yeah.
And it literally says that in the book. But then the other thing is, like, didn't we split up so that there was coverage on the other ride? So it's like, okay.
They're going to meet up with the other three at the other ride.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So maybe I'm just like, it's just something about
You would think the ride might be over by the time they get there, but I guess they get off.
Well, but that's the thing. They don't stop the ride. The ride keeps going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now we're running over there. Is there anything to say here? We're being chased by Torrelli. We're being chased by
and we hear him going like security, police in the background. He's like also he has a date with him. Just a small note. They went into the tunnel of love and he was like, I know that voice. I'm going to arrest you. And she was like, darling, what's going on? Like,
Torrelli, he's a conflicted man because he's trying to climb to the top of Zone 91. But he also wants a home life, and really, you can't have both. You're always working if you're trying to catch small children.
And that conflict was really embodied by him buying a yogurt machine for the.
For the staff. That's how she got the yogurt. They have a froyo machine.
We need a business froyo machine. The point.
I'm fun.
I'm a fun boss.
He also organized a trip to the gardens. So
under Condor Industries.
All right, chapter 24, chapter 23.
Chris, do you want to read it?
I'll read this one. Chapter 24, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cassie, Marco, and Jake climb into one of the haunted house ride's cars. They floor it through the line. Let's just get that. They just run straight through the fast pass line. Yep. They're joined by a soldier from Zone 91. Well, that's a coincidence, but yes.
Well, everybody here is a soldier from Zone 91 or their family. So.
Right. As the ride progresses through cheesy scares, the kids realize that Captain Torrelli is in the car behind them with 3 security officers. Torrelli tells the soldier who's in their car, whose name is, as far as we know, Airman Jones, to hold on to those kids until he can speak to them, give them a stern talking to. Jones tells the kids they'll have to stay with him. Eddie, you're phoning it in a little.
What's wrong with Airman Jones?
No. No, it's fine. I'm just being a bitch. Anyway, the ride continues. The kids see Hork-Bajir and Visser 3 all standing still as if they just very real. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm laughing at the reality of this. The kids see Hork-Bajirs and Visser 3 all standing still as if they're just very realistic scares on the ride. Then they see a big bear frozen in place, a hawk, a rattlesnake. So, in quotes, this is so totally going to turn ugly, Marco says.
I just want to talk about the fucking logic of getting on the ride behind them. Like getting in the cab. It's like getting in a cab and being like, follow that guy. But it's like a fixed speed motor, like a delivery vehicle.
It's so Looney Tunes.
I'm like, so we have two options, right? We stop the ride and we go get them, or we simply wait for them at the end. Like, those are two very good options for what to do as adults in this situation.
All rides, you get on at the same point you get off the ride. Like, it's not like a train where they're going to a different city.
In a little bit of a different place, but if you say we're with security and they bring you up around the back, like...
Not only that, it seems that whenever this combat that's happening between the Animorphs in their morphs and the Yeerks, the controllers, and Visser 3, that whenever a car passes, they're pretending to be wax dummies, and then they're going to kill each other again.
Exactly.
I was trying to figure out if there was some sort of like strobe effect, like if it flashes once on the thing, and then but like now I think they're just like here. But I'm like, when did they morph? Like,
yes,
how did they get here and morph? Like, what is going on?
I like to think that they're like just trying to pause in inconspicuous ways, like you're saying with the strobe. Like they see a car coming around and the Hork-Bajir.
That's what I mean, yeah.
And then, but then, like in the cartoon version of it, it's going to be like they'll do a little wedding vignette and they'll do a little maypole vignette. A little like. Yeah, just like lots of like dancing but pauses, but then they go right back to ripping each other's flesh apart.
But also, what was their infestation plan here? Because we're being told that they were here to infest, like, hopefully Captain Torrelli, because they're like, he's probably a high-profile target. And like, what were they going to do? Just be like, well, Yeerk everyone in that car so they won't remember. Do they have like Yeerks in a little baggie? Yes. Are they just going to shove them in there? Like, what's the plan?
I think they're in a laboratory scene, in like a madman scene, and then they're doing it.
That would be ideal, but I think they're in a graveyard.
No, wait, Eddie, take that the whole way.
I feel like, will you always go into a room in a haunted house where it's like, the mad scientist chamber, and maybe Visser 3 will morph a mad scientist and Yeerk them.
And will he get the mad scientist's poop? Whose poop will it be in the mad scientist? That's what I want to know.
Is it Frankenstein's poop or Frankenstein's monster's poop? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. It's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein's monster's poop.
But
limited.
I actually think they've established such a zany tone for this book that you actually managed to read. Like, it's so Scooby-Doo cartoon by the ending that you can't really ask the questions because it's just so goofy. Like, everything.
No, agreed.
Yeah, 100%. To the listeners, if you have not read this or if you have read it and you think that we're shitting on it, like,
we love it.
I honestly genuinely enjoyed this a lot.
Yeah. And the book 13 was so heavy that I'm totally fine with the tonal change that we get here.
But at the risk of going on like too long on this point, I want to put something forward that I'm excited to hear you guys talk about. Like, what we're about to see in these coming scenes is foreshadowed by Marco. So Airman Jones, before Airman Jones knows he needs to capture the children, before Torrelli says, grab those kids, Airman Jones is shocked by how unscared Marco, Cassie, and Jake are by the ride.
That's true.
And there's this weird meta commentary going on with children of the 90s about how they're so exposed to violence, which was definitely hyper prevalent at the time. But also, like, you know, we've all read about Doom. We've all played Doom. We all remember Doom coming out, unless you're a Zoomer or an Alpha, or even a millennial who didn't have someone with a computer. The thing that's really interesting is, like, we're about to go into a Hamlet-style play within a play. Like, we're going to watch a battle between the Animorphs and the Yeerks play out in such a way that it's almost like a self-televised thing in the canon.
Yeah.
It is just televised. It's like everyone is going to see the truth and not recognize it.
Yeah.
And that's what this book seems to be about. So as Looney Tunes as this is, at its core is like actually kind of a flabbergasting deep fake plot, like a you know,
and the
fake
conspiracy
news
we're
sort
all
of
obsessed
vibe.
with is actually about a toilet, which, like,
Right.
Yeah,
there
the
is a there
conspiracy that
but it's a
people-
toilet. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
The conspiracy that people believe in and care about is the one that's actually of no value. It is real, like, they're not wrong, but, like, the conspiracy that is a danger to their lives, people are willing to just, like, overlook because it doesn't jive with their narrative. It's like cognitive dissonance. They're like, that's not what I'm worried about, so no, they're just silly kids. That's just a big dog running through the parade.
and I don't think we're saying that that's like a narrative we've never seen before, but it is interesting and well done. And I actually think that there is like a thesis or like a through line to this book in the way that there hasn't always been with every one of these books. So,
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Yeah,
and
I think,
I think
like,
it pulls it off. It's like it's a good book.
And I think it also dovetails really well with the theme of Cassie's like larger scale damage is like this, like, yes, we've talked about how individual traumas have affected them, but being like, yeah, these kids just aren't scared of violence anymore.
Yeah.
Because they've participated in it is such a wild thing to actually look in the face. And we have to do it on a silly, kooky Halloween ride or we'll all be really upset about it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And we'll have moments to like hit upon it as we go as well.
But it's going to be pretty speedy after this, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of speedy.
Pretty quick.
Maybe we'll have some time at the end to circle back.
Yeah.
But like, I just wanted to get that idea in there because like, while I was reading this, oh my God, I was paused by it. I was like, this is actually kind of artfully done.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, even though it's Looney Tunes, the point it's making is a little more than Looney Tunes. Like, and not to say Looney Tunes didn't make good points, but Space Jam 2, I didn't see it.
I was
Let's
just going
move
to
on.
say Tiny Toons had that whole drunk driving episode.
No, well, that's important.
Chapter 25?
Yeah.
Are we there? All
this-
right,
we're
let's
there.
do it.
Chapter 25. Cassie puts together that Captain Torrelli, head of security at Zone 91, is a high-value target for the Yeerks.
Oh, oops, I said that.
And they've led him straight to the enemy. Cassie shouts that they'll go for Torrelli, and everything happens all at once. Cassie, Marco, and Jake all dive out of their car. 6 Hork-Bashirs spring after Torrelli. Rachel is a bear, Tobias is a hog, and Axe is a rattlesnake. Why is Axe a rattlesake? All attack the Hork-Bashir.
Loves the snake. Because he didn't get to kill Visser 3 as the snake the first
Right,
time.
yeah.
That's exactly why, actually. That's exactly why.
So they all attack the Hork-Bashir, all trying to protect Captain Torrelli. Cassie morphs into a wolf to join the fray, but Visser 3 and 2 Hork-Bashir have already disappeared from the haunted house with Torrelli. The Animorphs exit the ride, pursuing their enemy out in the open across the grounds of the gardens. And that's chapter 25.
They basically see some morphing happening.
Meaning,
Like
Airman Jones,
like regular
Captain
people
Torrelli,
see,
yeah.
because they like try to hide in like some of the dark areas to morph, but like she just has to yell out loud because she's not done morphing. She has to yell in like an audible voice for everyone to hear that they're gonna go for Torrelli, and they have to like leap out of this moving vehicle, hide in as much of a shadow as they can, and then join the fight. Visser 3 correctly identifies that they are Andalite bandits. He knows.
Yeah, he knew when they were horses.
And yeah, they just rip out.
Course.
They just like rip out a section of the background and go running out with like holding Captain Torrelli, which I think is like very funny for some reason. I don't like
beyond the morphing. Cassie shouts, "Captain Torrelli is their target." Like how is their cover maintained here?
No,
I think
that's a great question.
Too chaotic. I think Captain Torrelli's gonna repress this.
Visser 3 is just missing.
Or he's not going to understand what he might think that was her saying to the children that Captain Torrelli is the target. I don't know. Yeah. But like,
I feel like
he thinks they're pranksters, so he might just think that she was like, go for him.
Know. The pranksters part, he refers to her. We didn't talk about this, but in the loom when he's trying to catch her, he's like, "You didn't think I'd forget you, did you, Cindy Crawford?"
Oh, that's right. He doesn't know he's been pranked.
He's actually kind of just not getting it. He really is like living in this thing of like these kids are somehow important.
Yeah.
But someone says, look, it's a werewolf pointing at Cassie who's morphing. Like, it's so crazy. They just full on in front of everybody, like kind of in the shadows, but...
It also like harkens back to the Jeremy Jason McCall. What's his name?
Yeah, Jeremy Jason McCall.
Thank you. Sorry. Jeremy Jason McCall. Like it harkens back to like the spectacle and how unbelievable like his spectacle was, because he was on like a live local television show
and then was just attacked by a crocodile. And
we're not talking about that even like 3 books later or whatever.
I would also like become a monk, become a recluse if I was attacked by a crocodile on live television. I mean, like, I can never be part of society.
I'm not going on Fallon. He's going to drop an alligator on me. Like, it's like, I'm not doing it. He always drops birds of prey.
It would be fun to track, like, we praise these books for their continuity, but imagining the person who's putting together all of the pieces, just imagining that NPC who's paying attention to everything going on in this city. And it, like,
oh my God.
How close are they to putting it together, this book?
I mean, that's what, like, when we made the big sexy news joke, like, way back when, like, that's the kind of article I wanted to have the personal time to write.
Yeah.
Was like I saw X, Y, and Z, and it's in the classifieds. It's not even a real article, but it's someone begging for the truth. Like, just like, what is fucking happening here?
Yeah.
I swear somebody has, I'm sorry, I'm like looking now. I swear somebody has, yes, follow environmentalist investigators Robin, Stevie, and Kyle as they look into a seemingly innocuous community organization called The Sharing, which they
oh my God, yes.
Sporadic Phantoms is the name of the podcast. And it's like, yeah, so there is a podcast. It's not exactly that, but like it is that like conspiracy theory.
Miranda, send me that link. I'm going to start listening to that tomorrow. Like I have to know this podcast. Like I got to check it out. What do we need to do to get back on track?
Okay, so
I'm a little lost.
I actually think we can jump into chapter 26.
Yeah, we can actually move on to the next chapter.
I do want to say, let's do what you guys said.
Chapter 26. The Animorphs chase Visser 3 and friends across the busy streets of the amusement park. A parade is happening at this exact moment, complete with a brass band and many Looney Tunes characters. Visser 3's path is interrupted by a Daffy Duck performer. He decapitates Daffy Duck and is distracted when a teenager's head pops out of the costume. The distraction allows the Animorphs to catch up and a fight ensues. The families attending the parade all believe that this fight between the Animorphs and the Yeerks is part of the attraction. Cassie catches up with the Hork-Bajir, who is dragging Torrelli along, and attacks. The Hork-Bajir drops Torrelli and flees, along with Visser 3, to their spacecraft, hidden in plain sight atop the Alien Adventure ride. A child observes the Yeerk spacecraft taking off and says that it looks nothing like the real thing. His grandfather agrees. He claims that he was abducted by aliens once, and that ship looked nothing like this one.
This book is ludicrous. It's just
I think he also comments that they did medical experiments on him. So I believe that he is a Skritna survivor.
Yep.
They play the first song. It's announced that they're playing is 76 trombones, which is just it's It's just a great parade song in general.
It's a
but
banger.
Like, I did Music Man was like the first like show I was a part of when I was 10 years old. Like it was like a grown-up show where there were kids in it, and I was like very excited to be a part of it. And so 76 Trombones just like lives in my heart and soul.
I remember a friend of mine when I was somewhat little, like being like I think I was a teenager, and I was like, "What's your favorite musical?" And she went, "The Music Man." And I like rolled my eyes so hard. And then like later in my late 20s, I was like, that musical fucking slaps.
Some of it does. Some of it does.
I think like one of my favorite moments is the diegetic music that is the mom and the mom and the daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Arguing over the kid playing the piano lesson.
Yeah, they do it in Family Guy.
It's so beautiful. And but it's like that moment is the one gift musical theater can actually do. You don't see bullshit like that in opera. You see it in musical theater. That is the one thing Broadway actually did, was this kid is doing a piano lesson in the other room, and a mother is lecturing her daughter.
And she's like
to
giving
the tune of the exercises.
And I think she's so the piano teacher, so she's like doing it. She's like, remember, it goes like this: bum 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 bum. Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Anywho, love that show. Let's dive back into the
Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tweety Bird, Sylvester, Tasmanian Devil, Pepe Le Pew all get name dropped here. I feel like Yosemite Sam gets brought up later.
Yeah. They all. This is Scholastic trying to get
like. Does
sued.
Warner Brothers own this? Like, I'm asking because I don't know that they haven't med the best like.
Eddie,
decisions.
Have you considered writing a lewd short story using IP that you do not own? Have you considered...
That's covered under parody. It's if you publish it for money that it becomes a problem.
I have a new theory. Okay, and I know we've kind of fallen off of Survivor seasons, but Survivor references. There is a season of Survivor, Cook Islands, that I believe... which also known as Survivor Race Wars by the community, because they divide the tribes by race.
Yeah,
they
do that.
Big cringe.
And also,
big cringe.
I think it's like actually season 13 of Survivor. I think it's right around this point in
You're right about
the chronology. Yeah. The legend goes that it was the season that they aired when they thought they might get pulled off the air anyway, so they just did like a wild idea. And what if
like do the craziest drama?
Yes. And what if book 14 is when K.A. Applegate believes that she's about to get pulled from the Animorphs, and this is the book
that throw in Pepe Le Pew, despite all the ambiguity around consent that he has.
I'm going to decapitate Daffy
We
Duck.
know that Pepe Le Pew is canceled, and yet
I just say, like, this ending is so ludicrous that maybe that's what was happening.
Yeah, she was like, if no one ever gets to read any more Animorphs, what do I want to leave them with? And it's a parade of Looney Tunes getting decapitated by Visser 3.
This book to me, and I know I'm hitting this note kind of hard, but like when we moved in to our first apartment, Eddie, right after you moved out and Nick moved in, Nick started watching The X-Files. And Nick had a lot of questions because Nick was watching it through a 2015 lens. And The X-Files, when we were kids growing up, it was a lot of fun. And yet, like, conspiracy theory is very different in our modern era. And there's something about this that just, like, I don't know how to make the grandiose point that's living in my heart, but it speaks to Gen X cynicism with like children who are desensitized to violence, to conspiracy theories missing what's directly in front of them and missing the ground truth, while also absurdly asserting that aliens are actually real and we'd never be able to detect them. Like it's like one of my favorite things that happened recently, I got a video in my YouTube feed and Tom DeLonge is about to play Aliens Exist. Tom DeLonge of Blink-182 is about to play Aliens Exist off Enema of the State?
Enema of the State. It's like Enemy of the State.
Yes, thank you. Yes, that's the joke. And he's about to play the song. He's like, and the debriefing of the, what are they called? The unidentified, it's not UFOs, it's the new term for them.
It's
aeronautic.
Aerial phenomenon, yeah.
Yes, UA something
UAP?
or whatever.
Yeah. UAP, I think it is unidentified aerial phenomenon. I think that's what it is.
So anyway, like right when that was about to switch, he was just like, I was right though. And I was like, yeah, you, but were you right though?
I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I don't like to bring up too much political stuff, but like the fact that we all found out that Tom DeLonge emailed Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State in the email leaks asking for proof of aliens to be declassified. Like that,
America would be nothing. And I'm going to get political. America would be nothing if it weren't for the Tom DeLonges out there.
That's true.
And specifically by the
questions.
Tom DeLonges, I mean the plural Tom DeLonges that are the one Tom DeLonge.
The one Tom DeLonge.
Please only Tom DeLonge do that.
But people need to be asking the questions so that it's sort of like when you go back and you're like, oh, there was a civil case where, you know, like Martin Luther King Jr.'s family was awarded money for the government being, you know, like somehow involved in his death, like things like that. And it's like somebody needs to be out there asking the questions and leaving the record that people were talking about it at the time so that when everything comes out, it's like...
That's actually, that last part is the thing that I think I'm catching on to here is hearing a K.A. Applegate who is, I don't actually have a sense of how old she is when she's writing this, but it's like...
Maybe like 30.
Is she 30 already?
I have no idea.
20s, 30s.
They just had their first kid, right? Because the dedications shifted.
Yeah.
So
late 20s to 30 probably.
Yeah. I don't know. We should look it up. But the thing
people
is,
had kids earlier back then.
When we talked to David Mattingly, like, there was such a feeling of, like, you were a bunch of fucking wonderful, beautiful weirdos trying to send a message to me. And, like, they weren't doing it deliberately. It wasn't like, I'm not saying that they're, like, wise beyond their years, but they were trying to tell us something. And this book has that vibe.
Yeah, their stories have a deeper purpose and meaning, and it's like... You find that more in kidlit than I think a lot of people think you will, but, like, it is always really gratifying because I feel like sometimes I read whole-ass adult novels that are on the New York Times bestseller list that don't stir me emotionally as much as Animorphs 13.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So, like...
Yeah.
I
mean, you take a look at they just are doing their 100 best books since the year 2000, and there are some books that I read and I felt nothing reading on that list. Yeah,
I just saw someone responding to that, and they were like, I'm not American, so maybe I'm not the best person to say, but, like, there's, like, one fantasy novel and, like, one sci-fi novel, so that's crazy. But then also, like, there's not a single children's book. Mm-hmm. And I'm like... And, like, I guess they do say novels, and so, like, if you maybe don't consider chapter books novels, but, like, there's not a single children... I mean, some of these came out in the 21st century.
Yeah.
And tons of great, like, kid-aimed series have come out since 2000. I mean, we had Westwall, about the mice who fight in wars. Redwall, that's it. I don't know why I went with Westwall, but like Redwall was like crazy. And some of the shit that like, it was again, the type of shit that we only read because people saw the cute mice on the cover. It was like Watership Down, you know what I mean? Like nobody would have let the kid read it if they realized what was on the inside of it. Like,
I like that we're doing this drag out the last chapter thing because we're really like, we just read the description of the chapter. That's the action that happens in this chapter. There are details. It's
people keep really trying to pet Cassie as a wolf.
It's a fun chapter to read, but one thing, speaking to like, you know, Eddie and Mai's younger years, and also just like why the three of us are doing this podcast, I remember like 10 years ago, I've always loved pop music intrinsically, but maybe at some point in my life I was embarrassed about that and trying to shake it.
Oh, for sure.
And Eddie, when we moved into each other, let me try that again.
That happened before we moved into the same apartment.
Yes. When Eddie and I'm beat red. When Eddie and I moved in together, I remember having a really, really formative conversation about how, whether you call it pop, whether you call it pulp, whether you call it romance, whether you call it something, whether you call it YA, whether you call it a children's book, like mass media is telling you something it's important to pay attention to. There's like the wisdom is there, and to discard it is a kind of elitism that maybe you don't actually want to engage in.
Absolutely. People are so derisive and judgmental about genres like romance. And for some reason, fantasy, although we have some high fantasy that is held up to the level of literature, and then they act like it could never happen again. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's kind of crazy. But like, what young people read and what women read, and in addition to music, what young people listen to and what women listen to, what, like, those two categories, which are not always, like, not to say they're mutually exclusive, but they're so often cast aside by the greater, like, critical.
Right. Not
like,
to mention also to mention persons of color.
Absolutely.
And like people who didn't grow up here or whatever.
You're absolutely right. Immigrant stories. Stories from people of color, queer stories, any stories that's not like, but it's what they go after. It's not even that they go after it, they dismiss it. Mm-hmm. Like, that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. All of that said, I don't know how we're going to be able to finish this book.
I think we just jump right in.
How can we wrap this up?
We just jump into the epilogue.
They got him, the Hork-Bajir and Visser 3 run off and fly away in a ship in plain view. That's what happens.
Yeah.
And then we go into chapter 27. The gang regroups at the barn the next day. Captain Torrelli has been in the news, looking like a fool as he tracks down the 3 kids with the fake names that they provided him. The kids wonder if they should tell Torrelli that he's guarding an Andalite toilet. Cassie says, no, the mystery of the toilet is giving a bit of meaning to his life. It would be mean to take that away from them. Tobias points out that the Yeerks will keep trying to break into Zone 91 to destroy the toilet. This is all 100% accurate.
You could have gone with blow up the toilet, and you didn't.
I hadn't even caught that. But the group agrees that Torrelli would be more on guard now, and the mission to destroy the toilet might distract the Yeerks from attempting more serious missions. The gang figures that the case is closed for now. Only Marco isn't quite finished yet, needs a little bit more time on the toilet. His whole plan for rigging the horse races sounded pretty good, could make a quick buck.
He just really thinks that if you give it some thought, now that we've had time to calm down, cool down, set our feelings and maybe morals aside, we could buy a new console if we rigged the horse races.
We could get that PlayStation 2 that we've been hearing so much about.
Oh my God, PS2, the GOAT.
I think there's something to. So my impression from how the community receives the books is that like a book like Book 13 is really celebrated, and a book like this one is dismissed. And I think actually I'm really appreciating that these two were one after another, kind of like Book 9 and Book 10 with Cassie and the Skunks and Marco with the Chi were back to back.
Yeah. Yep.
I think actually both are equally Animorphs, and that
yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited to continue seeing them explore this, all that Animorphs contains, which is sometimes people want Animorphs just to be their first really serious sci-fi series, but I think it also had the silliness of like a serial program. Like you could have
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the silliness that, I mean, it's not all kids are silly, I guess, but it is sort of inherent to this like time period in your life. And also I feel like the middle school time period has a lot to do with shaping what you think is normal for the next 4 or 5 years of your life. Like, them just moving on and being silly about these things, like, things that started happening when I was 12, when I was 13, I was like, yeah, that's just what happens. You know what I mean? It's like, you pick up, you move on. Sometimes, bug fighters come. That's what happens. And, like...
You're talking about how unfamiliar so much of, like, an embodied 13-year-old experience can be, and the people around you are sort of just like, this is going to be what happens, and you have to accept that? Is that, like, what you're saying?
I was talking more about your norms form faster at that age, I think.
Oh, okay.
Or at least for me, that was a thing where because I didn't have as much, like, long distance time vision, like, I didn't have the ability to think as far ahead. It was very much like how it is now is how it's going to be. And so, like, not having the long-term planning skills, not having, the zoomed out, Cassie being the only one who has, like, zoomed out ideas about how this is going to affect things, like, can feel frustrating reading it as an adult, but is also very true, I think, to the character of the age that they are. And the silliness is also somewhat inherent to the character of the age that they are. Like, if you rewrote it as a story about 25-year-olds, we probably wouldn't have any of the wacky hijinks, but it also wouldn't be Animorphs. Mm-hmm. So, like, I guess to me, it is a serious sci-fi series in a way, but it's also a children's or young adult series in a way that feels fun and accessible and true to the experiences of being that age.
Yeah.
It's sort of
it
a
has
weird
that elasticity
dichotomy
to it. That it can be...
Yeah, like when I was that age, I feel like I went back and forth between, everything was either the worst ever or so much fun, you know what I mean? Like, it was very easy for my feelings to, like, turn on a dime. Mm-hmm. And so having one book be wacky and one book be really serious, like, doesn't strike me as out of place for a group of, like, 11 to 13-year-olds.
Yeah. And I'm not actually going into the next book hoping for one or the other. I don't know what we're going to pull. Like, and I'm not saying this is like the binary of these books, but I'm equally excited to read one of the more serious, like, Tobias kind of books as I am one of the silly. It seems really weird to say that Cassie is the silly books, but
these last two Cassie books have been silly.
Yeah.
One of my favorite growth moments for me, and I was very happy with this. There was, like, one of my favorite bands. A lot of people who listen to this are people who know us. There are some people who don't, and welcome. Tell a friend. But one of my favorite bands is the Mars Volta, and I took them very seriously when I was 12, 13 through 16 or whatever. And then I remember when around the time that we moved to Philadelphia, like, the one singer had started a YouTube channel, and people on the YouTube channel would be like, you never released lyrics for this one part of the song where you sang these backup vocals. What were you saying there? And they want, like, a very serious answer. And he would just give them essentially gibberish. He would just, like, make them, like, jokes, nursery rhymes, make them dirty, like, just give them a completely inane answer. And I was like, at the time, I was like, that's pretty funny, though. Like, it's like, if you're still 10 years later wondering about what the lyric in the right channel of minute 6 of this song was, it's like, yeah, maybe we just need a light episode where they're fucking having it out while 76 trombones plays.
Right?
Yeah.
Chris, do you have book 15 there? Do you want to pull it up and...
Oh, let me look, actually. Yeah, let me look. Give me 2 minutes if I'm not back in 2.
If they're not back, we'll blow everything up. Like that toilet.
Miranda, can you find the cover and the back and do the games we do?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Is it this?
What are the...
I am embarrassed to say I did not unpack my Animorphs books yet.
You've forgotten who you
don't
are.
have...
to say that.
I don't know that I can get the back of it.
Chris, do you think the Andalite toilet comes back?
But I got
That's
the
what
front.
Miranda and I were talking about.
Yo, dude, I just hope Visser 3 gets to go so this war can be over.
Yeah.
So, the games. I'm supposed to make up taglines.
Yeah, so on the front, I think it's you make up 3 taglines.
I make up two are fake and one is
2
real.
fake and 1 is
All
real.
right, so it is Marco diving into the water. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't bring this up. By the way, Marco can't swim. And Marco was in the log flume ride.
Yeah.
And I got freaked out about it when I was reading it again earlier, and I meant to bring it up and I did not. But Marco actually can't swim.
Oh my God.
Or at least he couldn't last time he unmorphed in water. Because remember, that was the whole thing. He was like, I can't demorph from the shark or from the dolphin that's been bitten in half because I can't swim. And they were like, we'll hold you up. And then the whale can't. So
anyway, keep going.
Marco is diving into the water and morphing into a hammerhead shark.
What?
Okay. Okay,
Take a second.
I gotta think of
time.
2 fake ones.
We don't have shark morphs yet, right?
Axe does.
Nope, not yet. Yeah, X does, right. From book 4.
Okay. An ocean of mysteries.
Okay.
It's hammer time. Or the Yeerks are out there.
Oh, shit. So originally I was going to say the first 2 couldn't be it because they're too specific. But then the Yeerks are out there is weirdly specific. What are you thinking?
But also very vague. Another one that could be true about any, but I'm between, I cannot be it's hammer time.
It cannot be it's hammer time. I'm
okay,
so
it's either an ocean of mysteries.
If it's hammer time, oh my God. Like, I'm going for 1 or 3.
I agree. Ed? I do feel like Ocean of Mysteries the ocean is more specific to the cover than I think it usually is, but I think that's what I'm going to go with. Because the Yeerks are out there feels
for the too
generally true for the series.
I'll pick number 3 just in the interest of competition.
Okay, I'm going to go with 1.
Yeah. All right, cool.
It was number 3. The Yeerks are out there.
I think they're getting worse.
I figured I just had to come up with one decent other one, and then I could go with
and then one joke when the hammer time is
I agree.
Oh, man. I'm so stoked for that book. Thank you, everyone, to listening to, book 14. It's really,
Do we have another game that we do? Is that the only game?
Do we usually read the summary on the back? I can read the summary on the back.
I don't know that we really do it as a rule anymore, but we haven't been doing that, but we have been doing the taglines.
Oh, that's super, I just read it, though, and it's super exciting.
Oh, read it,
yeah,
read
the
it.
only tagline. Almost nothing could be as bad as finding out your mother is Visser 1, the most powerful of all Vissers.
You know what? Stop right there. Stop right there. I think that's what we fade out over. Oh my God, I'm not gonna live. If we read this book, I'm not gonna live.
Wait, and
What happened to Marco?
What's the name of the book?
It's called The Escape.
Okay.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Thanks for listening to Anadorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon!